How's it going, guys? We are back. This is Edgy Outdoors and Edgy Knives coming to you. We haven't made a video for a while. We apologize. We changed states. We actually moved homes and locations of everything in the middle of last year, and getting ready to do that and going through the process of moving just took us away from doing some of these things that we really like. So we are back. We've got some exciting things we're going to do here in 2019 and moving forward. Hopefully you guys will stick with us and come back and see some of the other things that we have planned. I wanted to start off the new year for us here at Edgy Outdoors with a knife that really has been anticipated, highly anticipated from many of the Spyderco fans. If you go to the Spyderco fan page on Facebook, you'll see some people had this knife ordered over a year ago. So it's exciting to have it. This is the Spyderco Smock. It was actually designed by Kevin Smock based off of his custom SK23 design. So he made some rather interesting, implementations of Spyderco technology in his custom, namely putting a push button on the compression lock, which was pretty neat. And we'll talk about that as we move forward. This particular knife, from a usability factor or what it's really meant for, I would say, is an everyday carry style of knife. I wouldn't call this necessarily a heavy user style knife, but it certainly has some components to it that allow it to be a heavy user. I'm a fairly light EDC carrier, work in an office, so I'm not doing a lot of prying or anything like that, but cutting open boxes, cutting up boxes, letters, zip ties, etc., stuff that I do on a regular basis. I've had the ability to carry this for the last 10 days or so, or week, we'll say, and it's been a good carry. I like it. I think kind of an everyday carry is a strength. So let's talk about just some of the boring stuff that I know nobody really likes to hear, but just some of the key things from an overall length. We're under 8 inches, 7.875. The blade length, for those that it's important to, 3.375. And the weight of this guy comes in at about 3.6 ounces. I've weighed it and the spec says 364 ounces. I think I had about 362 ounces on my scale. So it really is within that carry weight. The scales are carbon fiber. With G10, they feel more like G10, kind of trying to be carbon fiber, but I'm not sure how they do the lamination or whatever that they do with the carbon fiber on Spyderco's G10. It feels different than the Sage, for example. Blade is S30V in a Warncliffe style blade. It is hollow ground blade, and again it has kind of this interesting finger choil that I assume is there because of how they're doing the compression lock. So it is a compression lock on here. This is something that in the SK23 Kevin Smock actually paid Spyderco to use in his custom knives, was this compression lock. So I assume that's probably where Spyderco came up with the idea to partner with him, or he came up with that idea, whatever it might be. But this is the compression lock from Spyderco, which is an extremely strong lock, and it's just made more usable by this button, in my most humble of opinions. It is a flipper, and it's kind of this front side flipper. It flips every time. It is an extremely solid flipper. I think this is probably the best job Spyderco has done with flippers in general, let alone the fact that, this is a compression lock flipper. They did other compression lock flippers that I feel like the detent was extremely weak, like the Amalgam, for example. I love the Amalgam, but that flipper, the detent that holds it closed is not quite as strong as this. So I know what they did on this, and Nick Shabazz did an amazing video when he broke it apart and looked at it. But inside this Smock, they actually put a second detent, which you can't really see on video here. You'd have to take it apart. Go look at Nick's video. but basically they put a second detent that's always kind of engaged so that you have a very good detent, so every time it flicks, it fires. You're firing open every single time. So it's really cool how they did that. I assume that's probably part of what took so long to make sure they did this flipper correctly and the detent correctly, but works out great. If you look at the pocket clip, it is definitely the opposite of a deep carry pocket clip. It sits way down. Not only is it the pocket clip not at the end because of the lanyard hole, which you've probably seen videos and other things on, but that pocket clip is also not a deep carry pocket clip. So apparently these are supposed to be standard holes. You can put a deep carry pocket clip on it, may cover up part of your lanyard hole, which I think is gone a little bit out of fashion as of late. I don't think as many people are dying for lanyard holes as used to be, but that is something that it actually makes it kind of a weird carry. So in the week that I've been carrying this, you know, in primarily jeans and even khakis, you know, I find that if you bump that too hard, it almost twists in your pocket. So it's kind of hanging on your pocket. You go stick your hand in your pocket and it's like almost pivoting because it's so far down. So that would be kind of one of the downsides to what I've seen with the Smock so far. I did go look at Kevin Smock's Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and actually it was his YouTube where he stated that he is taking some customers where he is, you know, basically potentially regrinding the end of this to eliminate the lanyard hole and make it feel a little bit deeper in your pocket, a little bit better to carry. That being said, let's look at, let's kind of look at the good and the bad on this, the things I like, things I don't like. Absolutely love the compression lock. And what they did with that second detent, it makes what I also like about this, which is the flipper tab. It makes it fire open, pretty awesome. They did a really good job. This is, I think, one of Spyderco's better flippers at this point, at least from an action perspective. I also really like the hollow ground blade. This thing is extremely thin behind the edge. It came extremely sharp from the factory. I have not put my edge on it yet. Haven't needed to. It stays sharp, but it is extremely sharp, and it's so nice how thin it is behind the edge. I love this hollow ground. It's not a super wide hollow grind, so it's not going to have maybe the same hollow grind as like a Sabenza, for example, but they did a pretty good job on this hollow grind, and I really like it. So that would be the other piece I like. So, I think when we look at what I like the hollow grind, I like the flipper, and believe it or not, I actually like the ergonomics of it. When you put your hand on this, it just fits well. The one concern a lot of people have had about is this button, kind of being a little bit proud, especially when it's open, right? The button is just a little bit proud sitting there, okay? What I find is that your fingers don't really come anywhere near that button when I'm holding it. You can see I'm gripping it hard. It's not there. If I go up high, it's still, this little cutout tends to move your finger away from the button, not towards it. So while it does have a little bit of an interesting ergonomics when you choke up on this and try to use that little finger trail right here, I don't think it has bad ergos like I was a little worried of when I first saw, the design. I was a little worried about the ergonomics of it. So ergos, hollow grind, compression lock with a button are all things I really like. The bad things, I do think the finger choil is a little weird. It makes it look a little bit funny. It keeps you, just based on the overall ergonomics of this, one piece of it that's tough, is it keeps you kind of far away from the blade. I do think, it's a great push cutter, even a great pull cutter, if you will. But when you choke up, this is really going to be more of a fine choke up where you're doing fine detailed work. I probably, it makes me nervous anytime you have a choil like this, but doing any type of hard work like that, it's kind of a weird way of doing it. I don't love that about it. Obviously, I don't love the lanyard hole. I think get rid of it, cut it out, eliminate it. I don't think there's enough people that want a lanyard hole that it's worth putting it in here. And I would like to have seen either a deep, some sort of deep carry pocket clip, even a wire clip, I think would have looked really nice like they have on the Sage. So those are the things I don't love. As far as the jimping goes, that's always a question. What's the jimping? I mean, I think it's a perfectly fine jimping for a flat, it's flat on the top. So you're not going to find the jimping like you would on a Delica. For example, you don't need that fine to keep you from slipping over. You're not really, pushing into it quite like you would on a Delica or a paramilitary or something like that. So that's it. So I mean, overall, I dig this knife. It's a fun knife. It is something that I think a lot of people have been waiting for. It comes with, S30V steel, which I think is perfectly adequate, especially in this price range. I think it was on Blade HQ for somewhere in the neighborhood of 160 bucks, 162.50 is what it is on Blade HQ for pre-orders. So I think that's perfectly acceptable for, an S30V knife that is, kind of coming off of a custom design. I think they did a really good job on this. It was worth the wait. The other thing I will say that was kind of bothersome at first, I forgot to mention, is my finger got really sore flipping this guy. The first day I had it, I think I was pushing too hard in. There's no jimping anywhere on this guy right here. So on the flipper tab itself, there's no jimping, it's smooth. So you tend to use your finger pretty hard on it to grab it and flip it open. So my flipper finger was hurting a little bit, but I got used to it and, found kind of easier ways of pushing it. You can flip it with your thumb. I am such a fidgeter that, that type of thing, can be important whether or not I carry it. So overall, excited about this knife, glad to have it in the collection. To give you just some size comparisons, we have the Freak or the Super Freak from Benchmade, and then the Delica, just so you can see kind of what some of the size differences are. If you also want to see another kind of smaller knife to see how that's the Ferrum Forge Mass Drop Gent. So you can kind of get another kind of comparison to show you just how big that blade is, right? The blade itself is almost the size of the Super Freak, but the cutting edge is about the same size as the Delica, just slightly longer than the Delica. So anyway, interesting knife from Spyderco. I will be putting out another video later this weekend, or early this next week. That is going to be on some of the new knives from Spyderco that are dropping. Not super custom or super exciting knives, but certainly something for you guys to be aware of. For those of you that like to follow what's coming out from Spyderco, you will see that. But we have some other pretty cool knives coming. Some autos that we're going to look at, and some unique Spyderco knives that actually are about to drop as well. So we'll have those when we get them. So thank you guys. Have a great week. Enjoy your weekend. I hope that you guys are staying dry. We're in the middle of a snowstorm here in beautiful Colorado, but we certainly are loving having the change of weather from the lack of weather in California. So you guys enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, enjoy your blades. We will talk to you later. Bye.